Creating a fertile ground is Maria Isabel Bühler-Granados' specialization as a TCM doctor. While the focus of her practice is to support couples get pregnant, her discoveries go beyond that of parenthood. Everything she teaches is about creating a space for life, whether it is in the realm of babies or any other vision we have for our lives. My name is Thorsten Lüdecke, and this is the Wisdom Qigong podcast. Hello everyone, and let us welcome today my very special friend Maria Isabel Bühler-Granados. Maria is a TCM doctor and she has specialized on fertility. So today, before you say, well, this is not for me, everything we are talking about will obviously apply to other areas of your health and well-being as well. So we are using fertility as a great example of how to be your best and how to use a holistic approach for overall health and well-being. Welcome to the show, Maria. And maybe you would like to give us a little introduction into your work and what you are doing here.
Okay, the first of all, thank you so much, Thorsten, for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here and have this conversation with you. I also get inspired by the social podcasts. That's why I continue even to listen at the night. So it's very inspiring, the work that you are doing. And from my side, I am TCM practitioner or doctor since the last 15 years. I have been specialized in treating everything of kind of disease for women health, and especially since 10 years now, fertility. So I am in the topic of fertility, especially when women have like a last round in the fertility playground or something like that. We can call like that. And they are coming with me, or the doctors, I send her to me, or the patients to me, to enhance all the woman's or the body resources in order to have a healthy baby at the end.
Now, the first thing that comes to mind, you say you're working with women, but fertility is not limited to women, right? It's a topic for men as well. But this is not something you are working with?
Yes, also I tell woman, but yes, especially, so the couple, when I'm talking infertility, I'm talking about the couple, as maybe you know that the sperm quality is it's went down since the last 10 years, and then we have also guys or men dealing with this kind of diseases or these infertility issues too.
All right. So now in my naive worldview, I would assume that if I want to perceive, or if I want to get a child, it is a good idea to be at my best, because then the child will get the best start, or the embryo will get the best start. So basically, what you are teaching people, in a way, one could say, to be in their best health and mental state, so that the chances and the possibilities to perceive are the highest, and that the baby and the embryo will get the best start. Is that so?
Yeah, that's it, exactly that. So we create a space for life. And I see here like aligned with the principles. For example, we're going to talk later on about Qigong. And because for the couples, one of the intentions or one of the goals of the Qigong practice is to make every day as a new day. It's like a new point of life. And exactly that is what I discovered with my patients who are coming. So they have really to choose a new point of life. It means they need to address all the lifestyle things that they are not doing well. For example, they quit smoking, they start to exercise or they start to relax in order to achieve like a better hormonal balance in any way. And also they look more what they are priorities. Like work is not priority now. Building a family or the intention to build a family is a priority. So they change really everything related to the lifestyle so that they became like a vessels of life, you know. So it's incredible. And I also get very inspired by my patients because I name them, they're like my samurais. You know, they get through the emotional, mental, and body, let's say, challenges that the whole fertility could represent to them. And they have this big intention, this fire intention to go through all the hormones treatments or all the herbal therapy that I am prescribing and schedule the appointments. And dealing with this in a normal life when they have also 100% job and they have also another responsibilities is like a really great intention. For me, they are like a source of inspiration and are like my samurais. They go just with this clear intention and clear mind, and so they build a place for life. So,
and where does Qineng Qigong come into that picture?
So actually, Qineng Qigong, I'm gonna go into my personal, and then I'm gonna expand into my patients. I had been going to a very challenging time in my life. So I was having the clinic, which is super successful, having a lot of consultations a week, then building a startup and being able to communicate in many floors in my life. And at some point, I felt like overwhelming. So like one of the biggest thing I wanted is to be fit to continue to serve humanity. And I was not able. So in this concern or in this, not to go in details, I met, I am working with Heather at the clinic, and Heather introduced me to Qineng Qigong. And she was super like inspired by the teachings, so I get curious. And then that is when I start with the Hunyuan Qi therapy program. And I was amazed. I was so amazed. So luckily last year I have the foundation module, and I went to China to deep in the practice of Qineng Qigong, and I noticed the positive impact of the methods in my life, and not only in my body, but also the boost of energy, also the relaxed mind and the feeling of going with the flow and trust that everything, that if I pursued my intention, absolutely the chi field will support me in doing that. So I don't have to fight every time to get into the goal, but I can just relax, practice, and let go with this mindset. So I noticed the changes in my own personal life. So, and I also, from the practice, I wanted to give my patients also that they can take home and practice in order to enhance not only fertility, but also enhance the well-being, the emotional and mental relaxation. And so that was a really good tool to give my patients. And since then, I start to give them some of the Lachi techniques or Chi squats, or rotating the waist, especially for patients with gynecologist problems. Yeah.
Ah, that's very interesting. And immediately when you say the turning waist exercise, yeah, I can imagine that this is good, for the sexual organs and it helps the overall health of that part of the body, which is obviously key to being able to perceive. So, but your story was then it's a very personal story. So you met Qineng Qigong and you experienced what it did for you and how it supported you in your vision for your life. And then you thought, okay, how can I integrate that for my patients so that they also benefited from it? Is there anything in particular where you feel that this is linked to fertility and not just to the overall health and well-being?
Actually, everything is linked to like, because for me it's like fertility, it has another dimension. It's not only the potential to create babies or to make a space for happy parents. It's also the way we nourish ourselves to become fertile for the let's say projects or for dreams or for inspiration. So for this reason, I think the concept of fertility is not only into the reproductions or into the sexual organs, it's everything involved. So for this reason, I find that the teachings of Qigong are one-to-one connected or linked with all the therapies we do here at the clinic. So we don't only do fertility or woman health, we also treat another disease or another conditions. For example, dealing with trauma. Also, in order to deal with trauma, you need to become fertile to accept another mindset or to go to the pain of the trauma and to let go. Or burnout, in order to fight burnout or to reduce the symptoms of burnout, you need to become fertile, to change your mindset and to let other people help you. The issue that I see or most common dealing with patients with burnout or depression is like they are not willing to let people to help them. So it's like a real transformation. And we support here with traditional China herbs and acupuncture, and now the techniques of Qineng Qigong.
I must say, I think it's a beautiful metaphor when you take the idea of fertility to that level. So if I understood you correctly, you're basically saying fertility is not just about perceiving babies. It is really having a fertile ground for anything to grow. So a new idea, for example, or if I look at the success of your clinic. Now, this is also a question of fertility because you have to be fertile in a way to be able to receive. And that was when you spoke about support. You have to be willing to receive support. You have to be willing to receive all the good that the universe has to offer. You have to be willing to receive and to see the opportunities that are there to make your life vision a reality. So from that point, I think it's a really beautiful metaphor. And I didn't have this in mind when we started the podcast, but I really love the idea because it is true for the actual fact of receiving babies, but it's also true for all other areas of life. And obviously, it reminds me very much of a core principle of Qineng Qigong, which is the open heart, open mind idea. So this openness basically is fertility, isn't it?
Yes, and also also with fertility, we enter in the space of surrender, totally surrender. All the couples who are and dealing with fertility issues, they have a particular problem or mindset, let's say it like that. And they think, okay, I was able to do my studies very successful. I have this job. I have the job that I wanted. I got the money that I wanted, the husband or the wife that I wanted, the car what I wanted. And now when I want babies, I cannot make it by myself. It's like the nature say to me, I cannot. So for them, to deal with these fertility issues is they enter in the surrender modes, the surrender to the nature. So for me, fertility had these two aspects. One is actively trying to follow your intention, but on the same part, you just surrender to nature. And also in not only in the fertility field, but also also Torsten, how important is surrender to what it is. It's the fully acceptance that we cannot change things, but we can participate actively and try to make our way better or more fertile or projects or babies in this case. So for me, these two important components for a fertile soul is to follow your intention, but also to surrender and accept what it is.
My name is Torsten Lüdecke, and I have news for you. You can now access our podcasts in a very different way. If you would like to go back to any of the episodes and you just remember a certain topic or you have a certain question, please use our new bot and ask that question. Not only will you get an answer based on all the episodes we have produced before, you will also be able to directly access the very episode at exactly the point your topic and your question was mentioned. Please use this bot and make sure you don't miss out on this wonderful new feature of our podcast. That is something that a lot of people find it challenging to understand. So how can I have a very clear intention, which usually implies, I've set my eyes on one particular thing and at the same time surrender to what is, which might be that I'm not there yet. How do you explain that to your patients and your students?
I particularly when they come for the first time, and I do this TCM consultation where I asked all the informations I need for prescribing herbals, but also adjusting the lifestyle. I asked them a particular question, and most of the couples, they are a bit surprised about this question is, why do you want to have babies? So for me, it's important to know what moves people, because you know that our work is a kind of in travel in a way. If you see, then how can me as an adult person recreate the idea to bring a human being into this world? In the world is in travel at the moment. But I discovered that the life the wish for life to celebrate their own life is most important. That, for example, if the work is in travel or is not in travel. So what I do with my patient, I said, okay, we're gonna work, but we need to really work together. We become like a team, like a team. And then they start to make the changes in the lifestyle. They start to take the herbals, and then when it happens, the wonderful life, of course, there is everyone is happy, even the doctors and patients, everyone involved. But if it doesn't happen, I don't feel from my part so arrogant to say it is because the natural wants like that, or life wants like that. I bring them not to the life wants that, natural wants that, like in the process of what the life wants from you if doesn't want kids. And then, of course, there are the most very difficult or challenging cases that the people continue to fight and not to accept, and to fight and not to accept. And suddenly, sometimes when they don't fight, suddenly the wonder happens. I have patients that they really don't fight anymore. They just let go, and then they actually say goodbye to the idea of having babies, and the wonder of life happens, because it's no more my intellect, my mindset, my will. It's just I surrender.
Yes, yes.
And in other cases, doesn't happen.
And I think this is, that reminds me of people that that are fighting a serious illness. Now, sometimes the actual fighting can be in your way of the healing process. So it is this. It's on one level you are very clear that you're choosing life, and that this is the direction you want to go. You're choosing health. You're choosing life. But at the same time, on one level, you're perfectly fine if it's not happening. So, and that with that mindset, with that relaxedness about it, and with this, you would call it surrender, maybe, because we've spoken about that word before. With that mindset, then that she can do the work. Now, if I'm holding on to something and trying too hard and applying force upon myself to kind of force the healing, it's very, very difficult. So I need kind of both sides. I need a clear vision, and be very honest and humble about that. But at the same time, on one level, have to be perfectly fine with whatever happens. And I that's what I kind of get from your example here of the parents that are really trying so hard, and that at the point when they say, okay, I surrender to whatever life has to bring up, that then it happens. But they're not surrendering, so that it happens, because that again is applying force and trying too hard. It's just, it's some kind of acceptance that they're going through, and then we see, not always, but then we see these results, right?
Yes, we see those results, and also important part of the going through this fertility journey is to accept also their own emotions and mental state. I often experience in the clinic that women and men feel like, for example, guilty or ashamed when they cannot be natural pregnant. They don't talk about that. It's like a taboo that people feel ashamed that they cannot get parents in a natural way, or also they feel guilty because they cannot be happy for the sister who is getting pregnant now. And she loves the sister, but she cannot be happy for the sister. And this creates like a mixture of a monkey mind all the time between emotions, shame, feel guilty, and then feel ashamed and guilty again. And also there, I invite my patients to accept what it is, even if it's not comfortable in the soul, even if accept the guiltiness. And it's normal to feel guilty. It's normal to feel jealous. The thing is, what can I give my mindset to transform those emotions? What those emotions are there to tell me? And so initiate the process of transformation. But actually, this process of transformation, what I often see in the clinic, is that it's happened organically when they know even to try to shut up the mindset and say, no, I am not jealous against my sister. I am not feeling guilty. I know it's organically. In the moment they accept that they have these emotions, the whole nerve system relax and they can, and then suddenly the mindset changes. So I mean, I admired my patients, like this is a job, especially the one who are fighting for years, is a job it's an extra job on the side, They have to go through hormonal stimulations who are not so good for the body, as we know, due to the hormonal impact. They had to go through appointments, schedules, pregnant. Then 2 weeks after that, not pregnant again. You lost the baby. This kind of very, very challenging situations that they are confronted in a daily life. Knowing that everyone have a life when we are working 100% and have this on the side. It's really, I am very, I feel very inspired by my patients. Yeah.
Right. I understand that. Now, I have to ask you that questions. Do you also have patients that come to you and say, look, Western medicine says it's not possible for me to perceive. Can you help? Do you have that?
Yes. I have, let's see, 80% of the patients are coming from themselves, no remitted from a doctor or something like that. They want just to try it with the help of TCM. And then for me, the herbal prescriptions, the individualized herbal prescriptions are very important in the process. And yes, we have really good successes only with traditional China medicine. And only that, Torsten, is very new. I was as you know, I was having the holidays with one of the gynecologists I was working on. So we was talking about patients, and when she discovered why this patient is doing really good since the last 2-3 months, she's doing really good. She's producing eggs and this kind of stuff. And then she said me, what are you doing now? Because it's something like paranormal that she's producing resources. And I say, okay, she's doing 200 squats, 50 minutes rotating the pelvis to the right, 50 minutes rotating to the pelvis to the left. And she was like, what is this? I said, this is Qigong, this is Hunyuan Qi therapy, that is what the patients are starting to do. And she was very inspired, and she said she wants in the clinic to do one session of Qineng Qigong for fertility every week. So it's amazing. It's really amazing.
I think that's wonderful, because if, and we know that from other fields where people come with diseases that are incurable, and, we've got many, many examples on the podcast here, that through Qineng Qigong and Hunyuan Qi therapy, you can actually heal and you can recover your health. So I'm not surprised that you say, okay, there's also medical miracles when it comes to suddenly a woman producing the eggs, suddenly, that nature is back to its natural state. And you've achieved this with relatively simple exercises here, if I hear you correctly. It's not rocket science, it's really some basic exercises of Qineng Qigong that your patients follow, and then you suddenly have these results. And I'm very glad that your colleague, who seems to be more on the traditional Western side now, is curious about that and would like to integrate that, because this is something that's just wonderful, and it doesn't do any harm, because these exercises are good for you in any way. It's not like a medication or a chemical you put into your body. So I'm glad that your colleague is open to that, and that you're going to introduce that and include this in their practice. Now, Now, before we get to wrapping up, I'd just like to get a clearer idea of how the order is normally. Say a couple comes to you. So I understand you start with a conversation, and one of the questions is this important question like, why would you like to have children? And then, if I understood you correctly, the first steps usually are linked to a herbal therapy. So you subscribe them the right herbs, the right combination of Chinese herbs. You use a little bit of acupuncture, and you during the course of your consultations, how much of that is actually more coaching because you talk to them and you open their mindset and create new possibilities for them, and how much is actually treatment in the sense of doing something with them?
Yes, that's true. So one of the most important jobs for me is to listen, and to, support. I think the presence that you can offer for the conversations with the patients, and also they come to a cozy place where they can talk about everything without shame, because when they enter at the clinic, I am not doing a judgment why this woman wants to have babies at this age, or why this woman decided to have we have these homosexual couples who are supporting also here. So I think the main point is that the woman or the couple feel listened and without judgment. And this is like a lot of coaching, but more the presence. They need to talk about everything that they are experiencing during the day. And I don't talk too much. I just listen to them. And then give them with the gesture, or with a holding the hand, or whatever, the feeling that they are not alone. That even if I don't feel in that way, because luckily I have my son or I have a kid. I was happy to become a mother, but that I understand in which situation she is, and also a part of the job is to get them to the mindset of become an open vessel for life and become trustful. I mean, if those couples are going since 10 years, always with fiery, no pregnancy at all, and they come with a kind of, you are my last hope, that's induced a lot of pressure for us when they come with this, you are my last hope. So then we try to change the mindset, that I am not the one who is giving the hope. They have to enter in the vessel of being or feel totally in hope and in trust. And it's difficult at the first to become then in this trust mindset, because they are like having those 10 years before, or 5 or 3 years before. So listen and be present and give them the feeling that they can trust themselves. So these are the 3 components of the mindset here. So
I think it beautifully creates a loop to what you said at the beginning, because even the way you approach your patient is what you said right at the beginning, which I love, when you said you create a space for life. And you're doing this not just for the patient who creates a space for life. You're also creating that space for life you are doing that with him or her. So I think this is a great closing word. And I would, but before we leave, I would like to know whether the consultations that you do can only can also happen online, because not everybody is in a position to come and see you on a regular basis, or whether you do your consultations in your practice only.
Actually, we have on a platform that the name is Be Fertile Online. And this is, for example, when we treat patients from abroad. It's in 4 languages now, I think Spanish, English, German, French, and Italian. We had therapists who are doing the work, and in this platform you find not only us as case managers of TCM, we have also nutrition, we have also coach. And after November, because many projects are going on a road now, so I have the intention to open a Qinen Qigong for fertility practice on Zoom. But it could be the next stage after November.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Maria. We're obviously linking your resources into the show notes, so that for very practical reasons, if somebody would like to get in touch and would like to benefit from that platform, that they know where to find you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for this conversation, Maria. I think it's a fascinating world that you are dealing with, and I can see how much your patients inspire you. And I must say you've inspired me and hopefully the listeners as well, whether their topic is fertility because they want to get pregnant, or whether fertility in a broader sense because they want to land some kind of idea or want to achieve something in their life. I think this was a wonderful conversation, and I would like to thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you so much, Torsten. It was very nice to have this conversation with you too. And as you say, we are fertile, so our body is permanently producing cells. Our body wants to live, is celebrating life all the time. And life is not only this fertile or this celebration of fertility is not only related to kids, but it's also related to our own projects, ideas, and inspiration. And as you said, Torsten, it's a good moment to close the conversation, and I'm very thankful for this.
Thank you very much, Maria.
We trust you enjoyed this conversation, and we invite you to subscribe to our podcast so we can stay in touch and notify you of future episodes. We will end today's episode with the 8 verses meditation performed by Qinen Qigong teacher Katrin Hendricks. Enjoy. To get your free ebook on the 8 Verses meditation, please check the show notes below.